Welcome to another version of Jet Fuel Video. We are here today to try and wrap our heads around what's just happened in the past 45 minutes or an hour. I am Matt Barbado, founder and editor-in-chief of New York Jet Fuel, joined by Max Marcilla on the other end. And yes, we are here to discuss a wacky couple of minutes here at least. Lots going on for the Jets, and we will quickly recap all of this sudden breaking news, and then we'll give our reaction to it in just a little bit. So in case you're just getting up to speed, you don't exactly know what's happening, you only have vague details or a phone notification, here's what's happening. First, the New York Giants will sign Damon Harrison, and reports are, according to Rand Getlin of NFL.com, that the Giants are going to give Harrison a 5-year deal worth $46.25 million. That's a big contract. Obviously, the Jets couldn't afford that, and this is a big get for the Giants, who had the 24th ranked rushing defense a year ago. Obviously, a big loss for the Jets. A couple of minutes after that, the Jets cut tight end Jeff Cumberland and saved about $1.9 million in salary cap space. And soon after that, the Jets made a splash of their own in the running game. The Jets signed, or will sign, running back Matt Forte. No exact details on the contract specifics yet, but according to ESPN's Ed Werder, the Jets will sign Forte to a deal that was $2 million cheaper annually than Chris Ivory's deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it looks like the Jets could be getting a pretty good rate for the 30-year-old Forte, who does have a lot of mileage on him, but he has shown in Chicago over the past 8 years that he is a dynamic running back. So, Max, I'm going to bring you in now, and starting with the Forte news, what do you think of this move, and how do you think it helps the Jets' offense? And do you think, regardless of the salary cap ramifications, do you think this was a good move by general manager Mike Maccagnan?
You know, it's something that happened very fast because it was maybe about 1 o'clock Eastern time when it was first announced that the Jets had interest in Forte.
Right.
And then, 2 hours later, all of a sudden, the Jets are signing Forte. It's an interesting move. You mentioned the Jets don't have a ton of cap space. They entered the day with a little over $6 million. They did release Jeff Cumberland, which you said, so that brings them a little over
About
8.5,
probably.
No, I think the number I saw was 7.3 million. I saw according to Over the Cap.
Okay.
I might be off on that. I have to check. Like you said, it's been.
I've seen different numbers for the salary cap, so I don't know where
it's been crazy all day. I mean, like you said, the new NFL season doesn't even start for 12 minutes, and this is already happening. So it's been crazy. Whatever the number is, it's an interesting deal because Forte, is a big profile guy. I think he's probably the best running back out there in free agency. But as Ed Werder said, it might be a deal cheaper than Ivory. Now, yes, Forte is 3 years older, but Forte is also more durable than Ivory. And I would say that Forte brings a couple of different dimensions. He's a much better pass catcher, and that could work in the Jets' favor, especially whether or not they get Fitzpatrick or not. The Jets are definitely going to need a security blanket for their quarterback, whether it be Geno or Fitzpatrick or pick anyone from the draft. And having a security blanket like Forte could really help. It's an interesting move. One I don't really think we saw coming because we thought Forte's price tag would be higher, but I kind of like the move.
I'm not as happy about it. I thought this entire offseason the Jets would be too cap strapped to sign a free agent running back and to not only sign I mean, Forte is a very talented player, and I've watched a lot of him being from Chicago, but he does have a lot of mileage on him, and between the receptions and the carries over those 8 years in Chicago, there's a lot of tread on those tires. And Forte has been a relatively durable guy for most of his career, but last year he showed some signs of a little bit of a derailment. He missed 3 games with a sprained MCL last year. Obviously, he is a great option out of the backfield in the passing game. I think he's a much better version of what Bilal Powell ended up being for the Jets last year in a similar role towards the end of the season. But I just am very skeptical about the Jets using the precious cap space that they have on a position like running back, where I feel like the best formula is to get younger and cheaper. The Jets might not have gotten, pricier or more expensive, but they did get significantly older. And, 3 years in running backs years is significant. Now, do I think Chris Ivory is a better running back than Matt Forte? Absolutely not. And Matt Forte's shown that through a pretty good career in Chicago. The problem is I don't think this move makes a lot of sense for the Jets. It's sort of a win now move, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if the Jets are really in a position to win now. We've seen with the Damon Harrison move that they're going to be, set back a little bit on defense. And Muhammad Wilkerson, nobody knows what's happening there. Heck, they don't even have a quarterback. And with Brock Osweiler signing a 4-year, $72 million deal in Houston, what are the Denver Broncos going to do at quarterback? Could Fitzpatrick be in play there? So the Jets don't have a quarterback yet. They're making moves as if they have one right now. And, maybe it's a foregone conclusion that Fitz will be back, and we can get into that a little bit later. But given the grand scheme of the offseason, this move doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
It's interesting, and when I say I like the move for Forte, it's because I think Forte fits well with Chan Gailey's offense. You mentioned Bilal Powell and how at the end of the year he was a tremendous difference maker for the Jets. You take a guy like Matt Forte, put him in that offense, and that's a great added element. I think Chan Gailey will use him very well. I think Forte will pad the stat sheets a little bit, especially, receiving. But it is interesting because you look at needs, and yes, the Jets running back is a need, especially with Chris Ivory reportedly headed to Jacksonville. But is it their number one need? I mean, their linebacker unit is still weak. They just cut their starting tight end from last year, which I know isn't saying much, but still, that's another need. Their offensive line needs work. You could argue their entire right side needs, a couple pieces, whether it be draft or free agency. And the biggest piece, the quarterback. So you're telling me that with the Jets' limited cap space, spending it on a veteran running back who, yes, might be a good fit in the offense, it's an interesting move. And I think it could have a big reward if the Jets are able to meet the needs at the other positions, whether it be in the draft or with a veteran who ends up performing admirably in those positions. But it's interesting that the Jets would take what little money they have, and the first thing they do is spend it on a veteran running back at a position. Exactly. It is a position of need, but not the most needed.
It's a position of need, but it's a position that you should get younger at typically. And it's a move where if I'm trying to get into the head of Mike McAgney, it sounds like a move where, he's going for it. He thinks based off of last year's 10-6 results that the Jets are capable of making the playoffs and making a run in the playoffs, which I just don't know if that's the case. And we can get into that another day. What's your thoughts on the Damon Harrison move? Obviously, we could talk about Jeff Cumberland, but that was pretty much a foregone conclusion, probably from the beginning of the offseason. The other major piece of news is Damon Harrison going to the crosstown rival in the New York Giants. Maybe not the worst outcome for the Jets in terms of he could have gone somewhere in the AFC, but this is a big loss, and a lot of people believe Damon Harrison's the best run-stuffing defensive tackle in the league, and was a big reason why the Jets finished second in the league in rush defense a year ago. What's your reaction to this move, and how much do you think it hurts the Jets' defense in 2016?
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that thought Harrison is the best nose tackle, defensive tackle in football. The impact that he has on stopping the run is just tremendous. Clogs every lane, it seems like, in the middle of the line. And, putting him in between a guy like Jason Pierre-Paul, and, the Giants have a very good defensive line now. They made another move to get Janoris Jenkins at cornerback. Might have been a little overpaid. He's now the 7th highest paid corner in the league. But the bottom line is the Jets' crosstown rivals are making moves. I think Harrison is a tremendous fit for them. I do think the Jets should have kept Harrison, but in retrospect, the Giants are reportedly paying him $9 million. We talked about how cap-strapped the Jets are. And even before the Forte deal, the Jets only had, $7-8 million. It would have been very hard to match that deal and still address the other needs, the quarterback, the linebackers. It would have been very hard to get Forte in that sense. So it's kind of one of those things where the Jets had to lose a great player to get other players. It's unfortunate for the Jets, but let me tell you, Matt, this is one of the better acquisitions of the offseason by the Giants.
Yeah, this is a great move for Big Blue, and one that the Giants desperately need because their defense is awful. He's going to go. of course, they're taking a very risky approach in trying to plug these holes with big name, big money free agents. Could blow up in their face, as we've seen with teams like the Miami Dolphins. But yeah, I don't know if you can go wrong with this move. We'll see how he performs in a different defense with different personnel around him. I think one of the big questions when discussing this Jets defense, specifically the defensive line, is what can insert player's name here do, as the focal point of a defensive line? What will Damon Harrison be able to do as now the key guy for, opposing offenses when they're game planning against him? Same question can be asked of Muhammad Wilkerson. Can he be the guy in a different defense when he doesn't have this much talent around him? It will be very interesting to see how Harrison performs in New York still, but for the Giants. It's a big loss for the Jets, but we will find out whether this was just a extremely good sum or really good parts to create that sum. So I think it's been a relatively tough day for the Jets. I don't think getting Forte exactly cancels out the Harrison loss, even though they're on different sides of the ball. What's next for the Jets? What do you think the Jets have to do going forward? The next 4 minutes, maybe, with free agency about to kick off officially.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got to cut this video pretty soon. We gotta go and scout out all the reports.
So my eyeballs fry.
I know. I'm looking all over. Got the phone over here, the computer over. It's crazy. Anyway, so to address your question, what's the next move for the Jets? You got to get your quarterback. It's the most important position on the field. I think the Jets are in the driver's seat now, and it's kind of tough to say that. 24 hours ago, we were saying, the Jets, it all depends on what the other teams do.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Jets know what they're doing. I think Mike Maccagnan calculated the risk and said, okay, if Denver loses Osweiler, they might get Kaepernick. There are reports that they might trade for Kaepernick. And then what does LA do? Well, LA has the big Nick Foles contract. I think it was a calculated risk by Maccagnan. Number one priority for the Jets is still keep Fitzpatrick. And to recap from today, losing Harrison is an extremely tough blow to the Jets, to their defense, and even to Wilkerson and Williams and Richardson. Great pickup by the Giants. I don't necessarily blame Maccagnan because $9 million, I don't think he could have matched it. And as far as Forte, I think he could be a very good fit in the offense. But my big question is, was that what the Jets needed to spend their money on?
Yeah, I this Fitzpatrick situation. Yes, obviously it's encouraging for Jets fans to hear that Denver would go for Colin Kaepernick in a trade rather than try and sign Ryan Fitzpatrick. But there's no guarantee that the Broncos trade for Colin Kaepernick. And if they don't, and it might be a pretty tough trade to maneuver because of Kaepernick's ridiculous cap hit, it's going to be tough for Denver to make that kind of move. I don't know who else they're going to look to on the free agency market besides Ryan Fitzpatrick. Maybe Mark Sanchez if he's released, but that will never happen.
No.
Who else is really out there? I think it's pretty much. I think it still is an interesting two-man sort of race between Fitzpatrick and Colin Kaepernick. And you want to talk about a team that's now screwed at quarterback. The Denver Broncos are in a world of trouble right now, and they better have a good plan or else they might not even make the playoffs despite how good that defense is.
That would be such a waste. I mean, we talk about this Jets defense and how good it is. Denver's defense is, even without Danny Trevathan, still at least 2-3 times better than the Jets, especially if the Jets lose Snacks. I mean, that's
Jets
a great
will lose Snacks. It's over. It's gone. It's done.
Especially with that defense, that'd be a shame. You win a Super Bowl and you're a quarterback away from making another run. I really think Denver needs to go all out. Denver's in that win-now position because they got the defense. The Jets, I'm not so sure if they're in a win-now position, which makes the Forte signing intriguing. But could it be like a LaDainian Tomlinson 2.0? I mean, that's another veteran running back, great pass catcher. And the Jets signed him towards the tail end of his career, and we all know how that worked out. It worked out great for the Jets. They made a couple AFC championships. I'm not saying it could be like that, but it has the potential to be a good signing as long as the Jets get their quarterback. I think that's the leader of their offense. They got to get him back. And even Eric Decker's wife, Jessie James Decker, tweeted, "We want Fitz back." Mm-hmm. So if she says it, I mean, the Jets have to do it.
That's gotta be a pull for the organization. So it is officially the new year in the NFL. So
Happy New Year.
I
don't know if you saw the ball drop behind me.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. There's balls dropping. Yeah, it's an interesting day in the NFL. We will keep you up to date on everything you need to know about the Jets. You can go to www.nyjetfuel.com to read all of our stories about Harrison, about Forte, about Cumberland, if you even care about that. Um, and be sure to follow us on Twitter. We'll be tweeting tidbits and reports all day. And be sure to like us on Facebook as well. And check out our iTunes podcast just for the heck of it, because it's a great listen. We discussed a lot of these topics on the last show, so definitely something to take a listen to. Want to thank you for watching this video, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from us very soon. This has
Absolutely.
been a Jet Fuel video.